Welcome to Marin Poets Live. I'm Neshama Franklin. I work at the Fairfax Library and I love poetry. After this program airs on TV, it will appear on the Marin Free Library website as a digital archive, which also features biographies of the poets and links to our collection. Today we feature poet Helen Bruner. Welcome, Helen.
Welcome, Neshama. I'm so happy to be here. I didn't even know about this station, and you have introduced me. It's wonderful.
Isn't it? It's a beautiful studio, and in it we're going to have poetry, and we're going to have a Marin poem, I bet.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm new here, but I was hiking on Mount Burdell a couple of weeks ago, and all of a sudden we had squalls and lightning and lots of thunder and cows wondering why we were under their trees, and hail. All this was going on, and over on the side, blackberry bushes in full bloom, not noticing a thing. So that means it's blackberry time.
Yes.
If blackberries had voices, they'd needle my sleep, whirring and purring cliffhangers from cloud whiffs, 9 licks at a time. If blackberries had voices, time would have stitches, caressing the kisses of red-purple juices, measuring pleasure of brown blackberry earth caught laughing in time. So that's one. And yes.
I just want to remark on the music in it and the
you.
wordplay. I mean, there's even a little touch of Cummings in there. I don't know if it's okay with you.
Oh, that's interesting.
But it's wonderful to hear that.
Oh, good.
And it's nice to have the little introduction, and then we have the poem, and now we'll have another poem. Let's keep going with poems.
And I love to have your feedback.
Okay.
So I'll talk about that more. But this is another Marin poem. It's not so happy, since I've only been here a short time. But when after this event, I went by the Throckmorton Theater, and there were all these notices up, and I was so impressed, and so I had to go and join them. Robin Williams. When Icarus flew too close to the sun, he crashed to earth. I couldn't know when I laughed with you as you flew beyond us yet another time that kindness wouldn't count in lengthening your stay. Each day is filled with little births and deaths, but small was not in your lexicon, nor in ours the day you left.
I'm glad you brought him to us. And I have never heard that Icarus connection, but it's brilliant. And of course, my Icarus imagery is always the Auden poem where, the fall of Icarus, where everybody is going about their daily business. And you've mentioned the daily business there.
Yes.
So there are echoes endlessly.
I would love to have you in my poetry conversations. I've been doing them in the East Bay and here since this book came out, Recollecting, and some people, I always get wonderful reactions. Some people said they didn't realize poetry had to be read aloud. Some people say they didn't. I get all sorts of reactions, and people are like you, some of them, they really come forth with what it brings up for them with other poets or with their own experience.
Well, that's what we're doing here. That's this resonance that goes, that's what a poem can do inside. It goes bong, 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 I think. And you're an ambassador of poetry as well as a poet yourself.
It's fun, yes.
Let's keep going.
So this is the front poem. It's not the title poem, but it's the front poem, the first poem of my new book, and it's called The Real World. There are only dreams. Some say there's truth in science or history or what's happening right now. But look yourself. You can see the shape of us. If all inventions, all horrible acts, not to mention great deeds, and even good intentions are real, that's way too much to contemplate. What if Aung San Suu Kyi is merely real? Militia would have killed her long ago. Gandhi, King, Mandela are more alive than this very day, which, by the way, is almost yesterday, a dream.
That's lovely. I love the way you set them up and honor them.
They deserve it.
Yes.
Much
yes.
more. So after President Obama was elected for the first time, evidently, and I didn't know this at the time, so many people dreamed about him and had dreams that they set up a website for 3 months after, and where people shared their dreams about Obama. So, and I also had a dream. It didn't come in this form, but it, and this is a part of the dream that I had. It came, I dreamed actually that I was at some place, but it was the night that he was elected, after we had all danced in the streets and whatnot.
Yeah.
My inaugural dream. I go to the inaugural ball. The president asks me to dance. I never thought to dance at all. Confused, I lose my shoes in the hall, the very ones I'd bought in France to wear to the inaugural ball. 4 circular flights. We climb them all. Passing cameras with grace and a glance. I never thought to dance at all. I so short and he so tall. Seeking a place with space to dance, I am at the inaugural ball. Glancing out, 2 moons I call? Double moons I'm past askance. I never thought to dance at all. I quickly turn back. He's riding off tall in a red car, and with him my chance. I went to the inaugural ball. I had never thought I would dance at all.
Oh, that's so delicious. Now, that is a form of a form.
Yes,
Tell
it
me
is.
what the form
It's
is.
a villanelle.
A villanelle, and it's just.
That's not the French pronunciation.
Yes, yes, but it's you played with it absolutely beautifully, and of course his book is Dreams of My Father.
Yes, that's
so, and
right.
you
I
have
never
to,
made that connection. Thank you.
Right, and to do what he's done, you have to be a big dreamer.
Yes, yes, indeed.
Yes.
And how he does it, I have no idea. I mean, I can't imagine anyone doing that job.
Right.
It's really amazing.
Okay. So another one, please.
Another one. Well, before I came here, actually, I'm going to talk about this after I read it to you.
Okay, good.
All right. It's called Outback. Outback in the Temple of Venus, for what seems like eons, often a shell of her former self, lives the goddess. Not the one, the only true goddess, not that one, but the goddess in everyone, starving, dying, praying, or laughing. For we have no space, my loves, between your breath and mine. We are that aligned. Our split, distressed, achingly fine earth tresses, entwined as the ringlets of her hair. Her sweet half smile, her trembled tear reminding us, stay the course, my dears. You and I are why we're here. So when I first went to Berkeley, I was on a just an ordinary little street, and there was this sign that said Outback, and I walked in, and it was a dress shop, a clothing shop, but it was also a temple. And it had Buddhas and all sorts of good things in it. It was just lovely. And it was really unusual, and it had a huge dressing room, and all sorts of people were dressing in there. And so you could see large people, and you couldn't see how this dress looked, and they put them on, and they looked wonderful. I mean, it was like a style show. It was amazing, very unusual stuff. Since then, the proprietors moved several places, and she was in Mill Valley for a short time. And now she's on 4th Street and in Ashland. And I don't know if she's anyplace else, but she's moved around. Anyway, and she still has the temple. It's not quite as temple-y, but it's still a temple. Right. So it's it's a wonderful spiritual place as well as a place to shop.
Right, how the gods move around.
Yes.
And give us what we need when we need it in very surprising ways, when we are so removed from all that pantheon of gods these days.
Yes. So I thought that was interesting.
That's delightful. And I was glad to get to know it experientially you know, with all the charming language before you explained it.
Oh,
So I'm
good.
really glad you held off on that one.
Good, Neshama.
Okay,
good.
what's coming next?
Well, this is the title poem, finally, for the book. And it's called Recollecting 9/11. So again, we're in a different plane. And recollecting or recollecting is bringing back to mind what is lost or scattered, according to Webster. Bodies start to sculpt themselves from ash. Flesh and bone detach from fractured metal. Limbs, trunks, faces find each other as they were before becoming one with screaming steel. Remember boarding, looking forward to being in the air this azure day. Like autumn days in early years, knees always skinned, anticipating outlined worlds for school to color in. And earlier, unsealed eyes first widening, new fingers curled in question marks, recalling dreams while floating safely, smaller than the smallest ash.
That is, everyone that I know of has their 9/11 experience.
Isn't it true?
And that is so, there's reverence in it as well as horror. And I love the one word azure really does it, because that was the grotesquerie of that time, is how beautiful it was.
It was.
Right. So you're doing the work of like you set up those figures, those important figures for us. You're recreating. It's like, you know, the goddess Inanna, you know, in all pieces, and you put her back together. What poetry can do.
Thank you. So a lot of my poetry has been around experiences being in the Middle East and concern since I was pretty young that war is a really terrible way to try to solve anything, but we can't seem to figure that out. I don't know, all those kindergarten things we can't seem to get. And so this is pretty gentle to start with. The 2 a.m. of truth. There were scarves discussed early on. Should they be knit of cashmere wool, soft as light? Or silk, perhaps, opaque, with white doves painted on by hand? Not to mention how to win a war while hiding all the dying. Later, there was coffee, what creates the perfect brew, cardamom, vanilla, foam, no foam, and on. Later, in the middle of the night, well, early morning really, skeletons appear, waking us.
Right, that's the way it sinks in. And everything we do to try to protect ourselves from that, and you've stripped it all away. But all those talismans of civilization.
Yes.
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 And how flimsy they are.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's always interesting when politics gets in a slant, which, you know, and I love that. I don't like polemic poems, but I love when something, you know, it's the grit that creates the pearl. And we have a lot of grit these days to deal with.
Well, some of these are a little less subtle, so you might not like.
Go for it.
No,
no, I'm not tender. Go for it.
This is a pantoum. It's called Writ. The stories of our lives are written on the lips of our children, goes an Arabic proverb. Jerusalem stone bleeding rose on cream from crevices of black, bleeding, reminding me from crevices of black of lives eclipsed, reminding me of men erased by tanks, lives eclipsed in Israel or in Palestine, of men erased by tanks like walls in Israel, in Palestine, of gray cement. Like walls, homes ground to gray cement where children are, homes ground, rose on cream, where children are to Jerusalem stone.
It's what did you call it again? I've heard the word.
It's a pantoum.
Pantoum. It's so intricate. It's like almost like a carpet.
And it may not be the best for that, telling that story, but it's it's a very interesting
Well,
shape.
it
It's
is
much
because
fun
of
to
the
work with.
gray cement. The gray cement is very important. So I'm just going to have to ask what you were doing in the Middle East.
Oh, well, it'll be in, well.
Oh, if it's in a poem, give us the poem.
Okay. Actually, I was in in Israel and in the Palestinian territories a couple of times. Actually, I was in 3 times, and saw a lot. And I've been to Syria when it was still there.
Yeah.
And many of the places I've been are not in such good shape now.
Yeah.
Many of the other places. Whoops, I'm missing one here. Okay. So this is just...
And by the way, we're kind of at the 10-minute mark, so just make sure that you get in what you want to get in.
Okay. So I'll read one more.
Oh, we have lots. 10 minutes is a
one
long
more,
time for poems.
one more on this subject.
All right.
Only one more on this subject, and then we'll change. Afterwards, all summer words like wood ovens burn. Sun scars yellow, all once green. Wind strokes weaving pale straw grass to early winter knots. Shattered light bulbs slip and sway, wires dipping, almost like a garden party, if only there were parties or gardens anymore. Then a backward look askance at your fallen doll. A subtle hint of mud boot caught by chance, caressed by gnarled trees, corpses on the grass. Eyes, inert as olive pits, you also must have glimpsed that burned out window so high up, and surely guessed only doves had caught your careless glance. One home, one arm or leg, one family after another, broken threads on a broken loom. Readers, books, readers of books, and now you are redundant.
Wow. That's very photographic in a impressionistic way. You know, I can see the eye landing on all of those things, and I can see what the heart, I can feel what the heart is doing in response, but you don't have to say anything about it.
So we should change the subject, right?
You do what, this is your show, Helen.
Well, this is sleep has been in the, Arianna Huffington recently wrote a book about it and brought it to very public attention that people are not sleeping. People have never been sleeping, but they weren't so noisy about it. Now they're noisy about it. So this is called Time Out. Blurred nights and often days require resolution. Acceptance may be bittersweet. We clock waking states and sleep as oppositional, at least until each seems to fade somehow to a pastiche of dawn and dusk. Like dandruff, drift might slyly overtake you after surgery or menopause, before or after birth, your infant's or your own. For yes, there is a possibility your life has always been a little out of sync with that precision so essential to the turning of the earth.
It's fascinating to me, the way a dream started and now you're back in dreamland again.
Well, that's the title of this book. It's Recollecting Dreams and Other Altered States.
There we have it.
Yes.
There we have it.
So
and where did you get this grasp of all this classical poetry that you do so effortless? It comes out really effortless. It comes out almost conversational. It's very exciting to have that. You know, it's not somebody declaring poetry.
I know.
You're talking,
well,
but in poetic form. How did you learn all this stuff?
Well, in the conversations, I read a poem, we talk about it, and I read it again. I've gotten so tired of going to poetry readings where there's maybe a lot to digest, but there's too much. And you know, it's very hard to get that. So
you drank deep.
I drank.
Okay. Okay. Let's have a few more.
Okay, so before I lived here, I lived in Berkeley. This is called Berkeley Trees, and one day I was walking down a street that usually had beautiful large trees, and all the trees had been cut so much that they're just one trunk and a couple of bare branches. Oh, it was so scary. Moving Berkeley trees, moving against silence, trimmed trees breach concrete like women ascendant, shorn bare to their beleaguered roots, scarred trunks ripple, limbs rise up, hallelujah dancing, praising life. We could have that again. We could have a lot of them again.
Yeah, do that again. It's so short.
Berkeley trees, moving against silence, trimmed trees breach concrete like women ascendant, shorn bare to their beleaguered roots, scarred trunks ripple, limbs raise up, hallelujah dancing, praising life.
So that's the kind
I felt they needed it.
Yes. No, I know that. That's what you dealt with the shock by turning it into something else. And of course, those trees are so utterly Berkeley.
Yes. Yes.
We have time for more.
Okay. And this is another poem about being older called Facelift. This moment of grace, before Mercury turns my hard drive, fries once more and market crashes slice my carrots into soup. This moment on earth, you can look into my face, see new moons turn full as buttercups in sun, blur all things linear to waves of whipping cream, crashing only into upturned spoons.
I want that again.
Facelift. This moment of grace, before Mercury returns, my hard drive fries once more. Market crashes slice my carrots into soup. This moment on this path, you can look into my face, see new moons turn full as buttercups in sun, blur all things linear to waves of whipping cream, crashing only into upturned spoons.
That's a delicious poem. And I'm assuming that slicing my carrots into soup is what I think it is. And so it speaks of nourishing the earth with you who are not going to be around anymore. I mean, I will take that phrase close to me. So let's keep going. These are short and pithy and
Very
wonderful
short.
poems.
Very short. Well, when I first came here, I wasn't going to read this, so I have to find it. I wrote about moving to a smaller space, which is what one does when one moves when one's older, usually. Eventide, a work in process. Enlightenment is moving through doors and drawers of life, shedding all those notes, stunning ideas, psychological breakthroughs, spiritual journeys, temple skirts from Bali, white scarves from monks in Nepal, homage to the moving gods, along with those fantastic plastic heels never worn, and huge maroon sweatshirt mysteriously labeled staff, always worn on coldish nights in bed. The secret of a good life is to enjoy what you have. Perhaps our exhausted young, braving waves of not enough, money, kindness, and too much action, reaction, might have been buoyed up by our tranquility, if now was then. But dead man's float is not a life, so we, like they, had to learn to swim, even when we failed to breathe. Enlightenment is moving to 500 square feet in Mill Valley, a reminder of college. Drawers under your bed will give you more space. Beginning again to move on, breathing a speck of paradise before eternity.
I absolutely love that. I call that a kitchen poem.
Yes.
You know, I want to see it like an old sampler because it tells me everything I need to know. So one more short one, and then I think we're done.
Okay, this is a new one just for fun. A I was working on it and I read it to somebody and I said, what shall I call it? And she said, call it The Lion in the Path. I wasn't finished with it then. The Lion in the Path. If I speak in whispers, will a new layer, another dimension, a fourth wall unveil? If I shout, will love appear, loosen my bones, melting me? If I am silent as sunshine, transparent as light, will guilt and shame over a life not enough turn my pain to apples or oranges, rock doves or morning, as we stroll, my hand in your mane?
I absolutely love it. And I think we'll end right there, although we have like a minute. What do you do with a minute? You just say, Helen, this is one of the most delightful times I've had with a peer, that we are both on this same path of shedding as much as we can shed and gathering in as much as we can. And you're doing it with such joy.
And it's such a delight to talk with you. You're just a wonderful listener, by the way.
Well, thank you very much.
Wonderful.
I mean, you just get massaged by poetry and it opens you up if you're lucky. So that's what we're doing. Thank you so much, Helen Bruner.
Thank you.